Here we are on the front of our Keystone Arcadia 294 SLRD. We're going to do a technical walkthrough like you did in your delivery with technician. We're going to go over the components on this unit and just touch on them, let you know how they operate a little bit, maybe a few tips and tricks along the way. If you want more information or a deeper dive on these components, you can find that on our YouTube channel for Great American RV, and you're going to look for the playlist HAP's Helpful Hacks. If you do find where your unit has a different component, let's say a different brand name fridge or air conditioner in your system, you can still find more information on that in the Helpful Hacks section. Once again, a much deeper dive into operation, more tips and tricks there, as well as how to maintain and small diagnostics on those units. So we'll start here in the front of our unit. Here we have our kingpin where we'll hook it up to the hitch on our truck, and we have our 7-way plug. Our 7-way plug transfers all of our lights, our running lights, our blinkers, our brake lights from our truck to our camper. It also has a 12-volt charge line that goes through here and connects to our battery, and that will charge our battery while we're traveling down the road from the alternator on our truck. Here we have our breakaway switch. This breakaway switch is a safety device. If something were to happen to the hitch on the truck and it fails and the camper disconnects, this pin will pull out and activate the brakes on the fifth wheel to bring it to a stop. It is very important that we hook this loop right here to maybe one of the pins on the hitch where it goes into the rails of the truck, or one of the tie downs in the bed of the truck. We don't want to hook it to the fifth wheel hitch itself, because if that's what fails and it goes with the camper, guess what? This goes with it too, and it does us no good. Now also on our unit, we do have some docking lights here in the front. We can find that with that switch right here on the side to provide us with some more lighting on the front. Next, we'll talk about everything in that front storage bay. Let's go to it now. So we can see here in our front compartment, we have our solar charge controller right here. This is for the solar panels that are up on your unit, and it converts that solar power into charging power for our battery system. This disconnect switch right here is for that solar controller. We can click it to the off position and it will shut down this solar controller system and it will stop charging. If we want that solar system on, we click it to the on position and it will go ahead and begin to transfer that solar power into charging power for our batteries. Now, here we have our battery disconnect. This basically disconnects our battery from everything on our unit. We do this when we are storing our unit not plugged in. So if we store our unit out in the yard or at a storage facility and we don't have a plug for it, then we want to turn this disconnect off so it doesn't drain our battery. Now, one thing we can do is leave our solar system on, and even with this off, we can still charge our batteries with that solar system as long as we have light going to those solar panels. So this will give it a little charge while it is in store. Up here we have a little casing. This is for our inverter prep up here, and that is for if we want to upgrade to that inverter system. This will transfer 12 volts to 110 in the event we are dry camping. We can go ahead and run small things like our TV or a coffee pot or charge our cell phone off of those inverted outlets. This is our battery storage container where we hold our batteries, and we'll notice here on each side we have our jacks for our leveling system, and up here is our control board for our leveling system as well as our full-size spare tire. We'll go over the operation of these leveling jacks here in a minute. As we move down our driver's side, we can notice on our slide out we have cables on the side, bottom and top. All of our slide outs are cable driven slides. This is a 12-volt slide out, has a motor on the interior, runs it out with a series of cables and pulleys. We have a much more involved video for this and how to override them in the event something happens in that Helpful Hacks section of our YouTube channel. Moving down the line, we have our side solar plug right here. This is to plug in a separate solar panel. If we store our unit under a cover or we have trees in that area, we can buy a separate solar panel, set it aside, and plug it in right here to help charge that battery system. Now here in this front compartment, we have our side propane tank. This is one of 2 tanks that we have. The other one is on the other side, same compartment. And this is controlled by a dual propane auto changeover regulator. A lot of words, right? So what happens is we turn both our bottles on, and whatever one is selected by the dial on that regulator, which is located on the other side, it will use that tank first. Once that tank empties out, an indicator on it will show red, showing you that that tank is empty. Now it will auto change over to that other tank even though that dial isn't selecting it, and allow you to still use propane, of course, until that one empties out. If you were to turn that dial to the other tank and it does have LP in it, it will turn to a full indication. Now, once we realize that our tanks are empty, we go ahead and get them refilled. Here we have our pass-through storage bay. Not much to look at in there. Here we have our convenience center where we have all our water hookups, our cable hookups, and the leveling system. So let's go over the information on that. Here in our convenience center, we have our Key TV system. This is for our satellite and cable connections that go to the interior of the unit to hook to our TV. If we're hooking up satellite, we have a mobile satellite. We can set it up where we need and pull our coax in and put it to here and then run it to the receiver on the interior and hook it to our TV so we can have satellite. This is cable. We'll hook to our pedestal at the campground and run our coax into here, and we can scan for channels for cable in the interior. Now, if you install a rooftop satellite, it is pre-wired with a coax that goes to the roof, and we can take this and hook it into our satellite and hook up our receiver on the interior. Now here we have our electronic leveling for our Lippert control system. This is electric jacks. So if we want to go ahead and operate, we turn that power on. Voltage is very important. If our batteries are low, this system is not going to work properly. As you can see here, we are given our voltage on that first screen. If we are disconnecting from our truck, pretty easy. We can go straight to our front right here. We want to drop and make sure we have those 6 holes like we talked about earlier, so we have enough length on our jacks. And just hold down that front button and our jacks will begin to extend. Now, if we are reconnecting, we've hooked our truck back up, we want to retract, hold down that retract button until it lights up, and once again, just hold that front down. Now, this gives us a manual option to be able to operate any of these jacks that way. We also have the option of actually going into our manual mode by hitting our arrow up. This will go into our manual leveling. We can hit enter, and then once again, we control all of these jacks by that. Now, the only difference is it gives us our degree marks so we can manually level our unit. As we change our level, we can see our degree marks change, and the ultimate goal is to get it down to 0. Now, one thing we'll notice in our manual mode is that we have these blinking lights right here on the rear and the left. This is to indicate that these are the sides that are low. So as we control our unit and lift it, we are going to turn those lights off, and that means that we have leveled our unit. Now, this is just to help indicate the areas that are low that we need to change and bring up in order to level our unit out. Once it is automatically leveled out, we should see 0 and 0 in the middle, and we're also going to see a green light right here in the middle, and all of these flashing lights will be off. Also in our manual mode, we have that auto retract. This will retract all of our jacks on our unit. So we want to make sure that we don't have anything under the front tongue kingpin or anything under the unit, because once you hit enter, all of the jacks are going to retract and that unit is going to drop down. The next screen, if we hit our arrow button in manual, is going to show the stroke of our front jacks. This is how much they are extended out, and same thing for our rear jacks. Our next mode is our auto retract rear. If we want to just retract those rear jacks and leave our front landing gears alone, we can hit enter and it will retract just the rear. Our next mode is our auto retract all. Once again, make sure everything is clear from that unit. And our auto hitch height. So our auto hitch height is if we disconnect from our unit, and let's say our unit is pitched up, right? We've disconnected from our truck. What we want to do is immediately go into auto level. Our auto level is going to level out our unit automatically in the front and the rear and side to side. One thing we don't want to do during auto level is walk around in our unit, and we also want to make sure that our steps are up. Allow the unit to do what it needs to do and level out. Once it is complete, it will give you a green dot right here in the middle, and it will say everything is ready. So once that's done, go ahead and drop your steps down and camp. What it has done also is store this auto hitch height. So now when we're done camping, we can just come to auto hitch height and we hit enter, and it will automatically bring that unit back to the pitch it was at when you disconnected from your truck, and it should have it leveled to where you can just back your truck into the front kingpin and hook up. From there, we'll go into auto retract all, and then we can lift all of our jacks and we'll be ready to hit the road. If we were to go in and manually change anything after it's done its auto level, there is a chance it erases our auto hitch height. So keep that in mind, go straight into auto level, let it level out, and don't change anything on it, and you won't lose your auto hitch height. Another thing we want to note on our jack system, when we disconnect from our truck and we're ready to put these landing gears down, we need to have at least 6 holes showing down here at the bottom when we secure this pin. This makes sure that we have enough leg to be able to level our unit, otherwise your unit will stroke out because there won't be enough leg left to level that system out. Won't be enough jack left to extend out and level out your unit. So here we have a quick connect for our outside shower and sprayer. We have a coiled hose that we can go ahead and quick connect in there and use as a regular faucet with the shower head. Down here we have our connection for our city water, our tanks, everything else. So before I go into that, we want to point out we have our city water connection right here. This is where we're going to hook up our water hose that is supplied from our house or from our campground. That is where we hook it up and turn that water on, and it will supply water to our unit. Now if we're using city water, obviously we can see our valve combination right here that we need to have it in. So we'll turn these valves to that combination and we'll supply water straight to our unit. Now our fresh tank, if we don't have a water connection where we're camping, we want to go to our fresh tank. Now in order to fill our fresh tank first, we're going to go to this power fill tank. We go ahead and hook up at our house, we hook that city water connection up here, and we go to power tank fill. This will fill our fresh water tank for our unit. So this is a storage tank where we can put water and bring with us. So if we're stopped at a rest area or something like that, at that point, we'll kick our 12-volt water pump on and we'll pull water from that tank via the pump, and we will have to be in this combination right here for dry camping. Now winterization. Winterization is when we're draining all the water out of our unit and we are ready to enter antifreeze into that unit so we can protect our pipes. Same thing, we are going to move it into this combination right here. This bypasses a few components on our unit, and we'll turn that city water connection on, and we'll hook our antifreeze up to the city water connection to fill our unit with antifreeze, and it will pump it out of there via that pump. The next is to sanitize to the tank via the pump. So same thing, we're going to turn to this combination right here, hook to our city water connection, and we can siphon water into that system to sanitize our tank. They have a lot more information about these combinations of options in your owner's manual, as well as your winterization technique in our owner's manual as well. Down here we have our black tank flush. This black tank flush is used to flush out our black tank system, which we'll go over next. So we can see down at the bottom we have black tank, gray tank, gray tank. Our black tank holds our sewage. Everything that comes from our toilet is going into the black tank. Want to make sure this valve is pushed in and closed whenever we are camping and in use of that tank. We don't want to have it open because all the liquids will come out of that tank, and any solids that are in there are going to dry up and they're going to stick to that tank and you'll never be able to get them out. So we want to make sure that we leave that black tank closed, and we're always leaving several gallons of water in there and some chemicals. So once we're done camping or our tank is full and we need to drain it out, we hook that 4-inch coupling down at the bottom below this system, and we hook our sewer hose up to the dump station at the campground, and we open that black tank. When we open it up, our sewage will begin to drain out of there. Now we want to flush our tank after that, so we hook a water hose up to this tank flush right here, and there's a spray nozzle port inside the tank that will begin spraying and try to flush out that tank system. Now it's not going to cover the entire tank, so you may have to do it a couple times. It will push as much as it can down to this valve. You may have to fill it up with a little bit of water and then drain it out, is one technique as well. Now when you're done flushing that tank out, you close this black tank valve off, and you want to add several gallons of water in it. You can either do that via your tank flush, running it 60 seconds or so and then shutting that water off, or you can go straight to your toilet and hold down the valve pedal and let the water go in there. From there, you want to add your chemicals in there through the toilet as well. Open that valve, drop your chemicals in. Whether you're storing it or beginning to use it again, that's the procedure you need to take. Flush your system out and add chemicals, and make sure you're leaving some water in that system. As you travel down the road, that water will help clean your tank system out as well. You do have your monitor panel on the inside that you can check to make sure that you're flushing your system out properly. It should show empty. Now here we have our gray tanks. Our gray tanks are going to be from our shower and our sinks. So one is going to be for your bathroom shower and sink, and one is going to be for your kitchen sink in your galley area. Once again, you have monitors for each of these tanks. Your gray tanks can be left open all the time if you were hooked up to a sewer connection at the campground. So rather than having to come out here and dump it every time it gets full, you can go ahead and leave them open and let the water drain out. Now, if you don't have that sewer connection, obviously you're going to have to leave those closed and then wait till you get to a dump station to empty. Now, oftentimes I'll tell customers, dump on the last night, close your gray tank valves, build some water up in that gray tank system, dump your black first the next day, and then dump your gray right behind it, and this will help flush out that sewer hose so it'll be nice and clean whenever you go to store it. We'll notice this cap down here at the bottom. This cap is to remove, and we can run our water hose through here and all of our connections. That way we can still close our door whenever we're ready to camp. Of course, down here right below that convenience center is that hookup for our black and gray tank system. This is where we'll hook that sewer hose up. And behind it, we'll also see a red and blue line there. That red and blue line are our low point drains. Our low point drains are used when we want to drain all the water out of our unit and prepare it for winterization. Those are located right under there, those two lines with the valves on it. We also have our Girard tankless hot water system. This is a tankless water heater to heat that water and give you endless water for your unit. We'll go over the operation of that when we step inside and get to the controller in the bathroom. Here we have our 50 amp shore power cord. Now we want to make sure when we hook this up, we don't have our air conditioner running in our unit. We want all that shut off. That way we don't cause any surges. We also don't want to be plugged into our service at the campground either. So to install it, we line up our pins properly, slip it in there, and we will turn it right and lock it in. And we will also go ahead and tighten up that ring on here. That ring will help that plug from falling out and cause any issues with arcing or surges in our unit. To remove, loosen that retainer ring, slight turn to the left, and we can pull that plug out. Here on the back of our unit, we have a factory supply ladder to be able to get on our roof. Why do we need to get on our roof, you ask? Well, we need to check it every 60 to 90 days. We're looking for sealant around all of our vents. Make sure it's not peeling, cracking, bubbling, any of those things that can allow water to get into our unit. If we're not checking this every 60 to 90 days, we're allowing the opportunity for water to enter. If we do that, manufacturers are not going to cover any water entry or damage to our unit if we are not maintaining it properly. So just like changing oil in our car, we want to make sure we are monitoring that roof and the sealant around it to ensure that we're not allowing water in. We also want to make sure that we're checking all of our edges around our slide outs, our floor moldings, our lights, our windows, anywhere where you see sealant or the opportunity for water to enter. We need to make sure that that sealant is proper and not peeling or pulling up or allowing water in there. Now, we also need to check our rubber on our roof after we take a trip. Make sure we didn't drag any tree limbs and puncture holes in our rubber. If we did, that would be an insurance claim. We want to make sure that we're monitoring this, and if you do get a hole in your roof, you want to contact our shop so we can get that taken care of and submit to your insurance company. Up here above, we have our Keystone Camera Ready system. This is a pre-wired system offering power for a Bluetooth camera that you can purchase, install, and then you can monitor what's behind you or while you're backing up. Down below here we have a hitch. This hitch is not a receiver hitch for towing a trailer behind us, unfortunately. It is just to be able to put a carriage in there so you can add more storage behind your unit. You won't find options for tow hooks on there, and you won't find a plug for lighting because once again it is just for a carriage and not towing. We'll also find behind that hitch, we'll see that blue line down there. That blue line with a valve is for our fresh tank. Our fresh tank, as we talked about, can be filled from that convenience center in the front. We don't want to carry more than what we need, and if we are ever not using it or we're done with that water, we open that valve up and we want to drain that water out. We don't want to leave it stored in there for a long period of time because it will become stagnant after a while. So make sure you're draining that water out using that blue hose down at the bottom. Here on the passenger side of our unit, we have that other LP tank along with our dual propane auto changeover regulator that we talked about. This is where you'll find that indicator that tells you if tanks are full or empty. We have other access to our pass-through storage right here, and we have our key TV system for our outdoor TV. That key TV system, as we talked about outside, you'll plug it in on the other side. We can hook this into our TV and get cable or antenna, and we also have that satellite option there as well for that outdoor TV. We have a 110 outlet right here. This 110 outlet is GFCI protected, meaning that if it ever trips because it's wet or it's overloaded because we put too many skillets in or something like that, then it's going to trip. Where do we go to solve that issue? Well, you'll go to your bathroom on the interior and reset that GFCI. We'll go over that whenever we get to the interior of our unit. Just know that this is a GFCI protected outlet. This is our furnace cover right here. This furnace is gas operated, so it'll run off of your propane whenever you're heating the interior of your unit, and we're going to have exhaust come out of here. That exhaust is going to be hot, so be mindful of that whenever you are running your furnace. Definitely don't want to touch that area because it will be warm. Up above me, we have that 12-volt powered awning. That awning is important to know that it is a sunshade only and not a rain shade. If it's raining, windy, anything of that nature, we want to make sure that we're pulling it in. If we're leaving our unit for a period of time, we want to make sure we pull it in. When in doubt, roll it in. That way you don't come back to any damage on your camper. Now, it's also important that we tilt our awning. We may have AC runoff or light dew in the mornings. That water needs to drain off of our unit. If there is any damage due to rain or wind or anything of that nature, you will be filing an insurance claim. This will not be a warranty claim that the manufacturer will participate in. Another thing that we need to remember is we need to tilt our awning. That means that we need to pitch it either to the front or to the back to make sure we have AC runoff from our air conditioner, allow it to drip off of that awning, or if we have any light dew in the mornings, allow that water to drip off. If we don't, a puddle of water will form in the middle of that awning and eventually it will collapse and will cause damage and injury. Once again, insurance claim, customer pay, not going to be warranty. So in order to do that, of course on this awning, we'll have to stand on a stool or a small ladder to pitch that awning. We'll go over it here on our rear right now. So here we are on our second rear awning. Same rules apply, sunshade only, not a rain shade. We're going to go ahead and tilt this down and arch it to where the water runs off. Now, if it was my camper, this being the second awning, I would tilt this one to the rear, and my front awning I would tilt to the front. That way water doesn't gather in between the two awnings. So what we do is we have two tabs up here. We're going to squeeze those two tabs together, and we're going to see little pins right here on the side. We're going to see those go in. Once they go in, we simply pull down on that awning, down a couple of holes, and we're just trying to add a small pitch to that awning so water can drain off. Whenever we're done and we're ready to go ahead and roll our unit in, we need to squeeze those two tabs again. Might have to pull that arm down a little bit just to get it off of those holes, and then we're going to pull our awning back up. Once it's up, we can go ahead and roll our awning all the way in. Out here we also have our outdoor speakers controlled by our sound bar on the interior. Here in our outdoor compartment under our second awning, we have a small 110 operated dorm fridge. This dorm fridge will turn on anytime you plug your unit into any type of power service. So one thing to keep in mind with that is when we plug it in, it's going to turn on. The little freezer is going to freeze. It's going to get some ice in there. We're going to build up some moisture in here because it's trying to cool. Now when we unplug our system, it's going to defrost. Well, what happens to all that water? Well, that water is going to stay inside our refrigerator until it leaks out of this gasket, and it could possibly damage these wood components beneath it. So we want to make sure that once we defrost this, we get a towel, we clean out that freezer area and make sure there's no puddles of water, wipe all the moisture out of it, maybe even leave it open to dry it out to make sure that no water exits this fridge and damages any of our wood components down at the bottom, because once again, this is not going to be a warranty claim. Another trick could be to unplug this or turn the breaker off. That way it doesn't kick on if you're not using it. Down here below we have our gas operated grill from our LP tanks. We pull up on these blue levers on each side. We'll pull that out and then this will flip out like so. And then we have two gas lines that we have to hook up. We'll notice here we have our male fitting and we have a female fitting right here. It's just a quick connect. We'll hook that up right there. And then we have another one right here under our refrigerator. Once again, that male quick connect and another female. The female quick connect here has a little lever on it. So that little lever is going to have to be turned sideways and it'll make a little 90-degree angle. And then we can hook up our male fitting into there. Once it's hooked up, then we turn that valve straight in line with the fitting, and this will then allow gas to travel through that line. If we don't open that valve, gas will not pass through there. When we want to disconnect, once again, turn that valve off. Quick connect, just push that ring in. We're able to disconnect it. And then same thing right here, quick connect, pull it off, and then we can store our griddle. Pull our two blue tabs up. We can roll it in till it clicks, and then we're ready to go. We'll notice on our entry door, you will find some resistance when you open and close it. This is a friction controlled door hinge. This allows us to freely swing that door open and not worry about it slamming against the wall. Also, if the wind blows, it's not going to slam that door shut. We also have our screen door here, a little door for the covered hole, and we can slap that in there and we have a screen door to enjoy the nice weather. When we're ready to restore it, just click it up against that entry door. Now we have our Lippard solid steps right here. These are great steps. We can lift them up and lock them into the frame, pulling this latch right here to make sure it gets into that frame. When we let our steps down, we want to make sure our door is all the way open, pull that lever, and drop them down. Now we don't want to drop our steps down unless our unit is leveled out or we have gone through that auto level, because if we are really off pitch, it can twist the frame of these steps. So make sure that we are hitting our auto level whenever we get to the campsite, then we come out and drop our steps down once that auto level process is complete. Now, once it's complete and we fold our steps out, we can see these little knobs down here in between on each side. This is to level out our steps. If we need to pitch it from one side to the other, we just pull that latch right there and we can go ahead and adjust our legs to make our steps level. We want to make sure we do this before we close this entry door, because we want to also make sure that we are clearing the frame of the entry door on the frame of our steps. If not, it will bend and damage these things. And we also want to make sure our threshold is nice and level in our door, so our door closes properly as well. As we walk into our unit, up in the hallway we have our control center. This control center is where our meter panel is for all our black and gray tanks. We have our fresh tank and our battery tank as well. We can push those buttons and see this meter light up to tell us what our levels are. Now your unit only has one black tank. It does have two grays. Now, this system is made generic. These panels are put into all the units, no matter how many tanks they have, just so they don't have to make some different ones. So keep that in mind. You're only going to have one black tank on your unit. Now, this FLT light right here, you can ignore that because it is not for this system. Once again, a generic panel. This would be for your hot water heater system. In this case, we do have that Girard tankless water heater system, and it does not involve that light. Moving over here to the side, we have our water pump. This is that 12-volt water pump that's going to pull from our fresh tank and supply water to all of our fixtures if we don't have a city water connection. Here we have our tank heaters. If we get down to freezing temperatures, we kick those on, and that will heat our tanks so the liquids inside of them don't freeze and crack those tanks. Here we have our ceiling light for the living room, our awning light for our awning lights outside, and we have our night light. This is for our hallway. Here we have our slide out buttons on the left and right, and down here at the bottom left, and in the middle we have our two awnings extend and retract as well. Everything on here is 12-volt operated, so if we have any issues, we want to go to that 12-volt fuse panel and double check and make sure we don't have any fuses blown. So here we have our digital thermostat for our Coleman Mach. Right now we can see it's in the off mode. To take it out of that, we push that button one time and we see off. We can turn that knob and it goes into cool. It gives us our fan options for auto, high, and low, meaning that fan will turn on and turn off when the compressor is off and on, or we can go into high and low and that fan will stay on all the time regardless of whether or not the compressor is on. We choose the setting we want, we hit it one more time, and we're in our cool mode. To change our set to temperature, which is what we want our temperature to be, just turn that knob, we find that degree mark, and we hold it, just mash that button down, and it will initiate our AC. We'd see this is our actual room temperature. If we want to change from Fahrenheit to Celsius, we hold that button down, and it will initiate, and you can see it blinking up top. We turn our knob, and we can change it to Celsius, and so on. To get out of that, hit the button one time. So that's our cool mode. When we want to go into our next mode, which would be heat, we hit our button one more time and it goes into our heat. Now there is no fan option for heat because this is just our furnace. There's no high, low. It's a gas operated appliance. So it's going to come out of those floor vents with the heat. Now once again, if we want to change our set to temperature, just turn that knob until we get to what we want. Last mode on here is cool and heat. If we push that button and turn that knob one more time, we'll see cool and heat right here, and it will swap between our air conditioner and our furnace to keep that temperature regulated at that spot. Hit it one more time and we can go to off, and that will keep our system completely off. Right at the foot of the steps into our hallway, we'll notice right here we have our COLP detector. This is to warn us of any hazardous gas that may be leaking in our unit. Once it alerts you, you do need to exit your unit to be safe. We want to test the chirper on here once a month. Hold that button down and it will test it and go off on its own. Now when we clean this, we want to just dust it off. We don't want to use any cleaner around it because it can give some false alarms. Here we have our 110 and 12 volt center. This is where we go for any 110 appliances to make sure if they're not working that our breaker isn't tripped. Any of our 12 volt components will go here to make sure that the fuses aren't blown. So here we are in our bathroom. We have our GFCI receptacle right here. We talked about that on the outside. You're also going to have other GFCI protected receptacles in our kitchen or wet areas. So in order to operate this, you're going to have two buttons. We're going to hit reset if in the event that those outlets are not operating. You would generally have a red light right there, and that's when we want to hit that reset button and reset it like we would a breaker. If we want to test those GFCI outlets, we have that test button down here at the bottom. We click that, our red light turns on, and we shouldn't have any power to those outlets out there. To reset that system, once again, hit that reset button. Next to it, we have our Girard tankless water heater system. We go ahead and we have our on-off button and our up and down to change the temperature to whatever temperature we want it to produce, and our Celsius Fahrenheit button right there to the left. Now when we have this system on and we turn on our hot water, this system is going to light up and we're going to see an indicator down at the bottom right that is going to be a shower head. This lets us know that water is in use in our camper. And to the left side, we're going to see a little fan blowing. That means that our blower is activating on our tankless water heater system. And then eventually in the middle, we're going to see a little flame pop up. That means that our burner has ignited on that system and that it is heating the water. Above it, our selected temperature has now changed to our output temperature. So this is the temperature of the water coming out of our tankless water heater system. So we can monitor that and see once it reaches that set point temp. Now these systems only run for 20 minutes and then they shut off as a safety concern. So once it shuts off, you will begin to get cold water again. That's okay. Turn your system off, turn the water off, and then turn it back on and it will reignite that system and start that 20-minute timer over again. It is suggested that once you get to the campground, the first thing you want to do is bleed the air out of your system by going to your stovetop. We'll talk about that when we get over there, but you want to do that before you operate things like your furnace and your tankless water heater system to make sure that you don't have air in your system. Also in our bathroom, of course, we have our shower and our toilet. Our shower has our glass doors. We have a travel latch right here. Anytime we're in travel, we want to make sure those doors are latched so we don't break that glass. We're going to open that up, and on our shower head, we have this on-off button on here. What this is used for is to help conserve water. If we are dry camping, we don't have a dump station, we want to conserve the amount of water we put in our gray tank. We also want to conserve the amount of water we use out of our fresh tank. So in order to do that, we go ahead and turn our shower on, we go ahead and get wet, and we turn this shower head off, and we don't have to worry about trying to find that sweet spot on our valve for our hot-cold mixture right there. We can just go ahead and click this off. It'll save that settings basically in there. We lather up with soap, kick that shower head on, and we can rinse off without having to fight with the nozzles to find that temperature. Now, little tip, whenever you turn the shower head on at first, that water is going to be a little cold for the first couple seconds until the hot water travels back through that hose. So shoot it off to the wall and don't freeze yourself out. Last thing we need to cover in our bathroom, of course, is our toilet. Our toilet, if we're doing number 1 and it's just liquids, we can just flush that down. If we're going with solids, we want to hold that pedal down just a little bit and fill the bowl about 3/4 of the way up. That's to make sure that we have enough water in that bowl that when we flush the solids, it has enough water to push it down the pipe into that black tank. If we don't do that, we can cause some issues with our plumbing. Now, besides that, normally operated toilet, we want to make sure we don't put any products that don't belong in there, like feminine products or anything like that. RV toilet paper only, that way it decomposes properly. And of course, this is where we're going to go to put our chemicals in as well. Not much to go over in our bedroom. In the front, we do have our second AC system right here, and we do have a second thermostat against the wall. That's going to operate just like our one in the hallway. Now, this system is not going to control heat. It will only be the system in the hallway that controls heat for our unit. That's the main one. Now, on our AC system, same as our living room, we're going to see 2 black tabs on here we can turn with a coin or a flathead screwdriver, and we can remove the vent in there. That vent is actually a filter. That filter needs to be cleaned or changed every so often to make sure we're not restricting airflow to our air conditioner, just like we do at home. You'll notice these vents up in your ceiling. This is your ductwork for your AC system. This is where you'll feel that cool air come out whenever that AC system is on. We have our mounting location for our TV in our bedroom right here. Once again, another key TV system hookup. We have that cable antenna or satellite option in here, as well as a 110 outlet to power up that TV. Here in our kitchen area, we have our standard 110 microwave. We have a vent fan right here that will ventilate out, and we also have our 12-volt light right here over our cooktop. Our cooktop has a glass stove cover. We need to make sure that when in transit, we don't have that cover stored like this. We have it stored like this. We have it down so that glass doesn't fall down and break. Now, our cooktop here, we can choose whatever burner we wish. We turn on our propane. We turn this to our flame ignition right here, and we can hit our igniter off to the left. We can see all of them are going to spark, but the only one that's going to light is the burner that we have chosen. Now, one thing we may find is that we have air in our system. If we just pulled our unit out of storage and we just turned our tanks on, we're going to end up having some air in our propane lines. We may also notice we have air in our propane lines after we've changed the tanks. So in order to get that air out of the system, we go to this burner as soon as we turn those tanks on, and we want to light that burner. Now, it could take a little while to light, so you can keep cranking on this, or you can get a long stem lighter and hold it up to that burner and turn it to that flame position and just sit there and wait until it lights. Once it lights, let it run for about 30 seconds. We're looking for a nice clean blue flame around that ring, and let it run until we're sure that we've got all the air out of that system. Now, once we've done that, that is when I would go to operate any of my LP components, like our tankless water heater or our furnace. This is to make sure that we don't go into any fault modes due to air in the LP lines. This is the best place to go ahead and get that air out. When we go to operate our oven, much the same. That one's going to be a little bit tougher because it's such a small hole in there. So we'll open our oven, and we're going to see down there, we're going to see that pilot down at the bottom. We're going to turn our temperature knob right here to the left, and right there on that flame icon, push and hold it down. That's to make sure that we have gas flowing out of that orifice. And once again, I would use a long stem lighter the first time I light it after I bled air out of this system. That way we're not sitting here having to crank on that igniter for a while. Shouldn't take too long. Once it lights, keep holding that pilot knob down until about 30 seconds or so. What we're trying to do is heat up that thermocouple so it senses the flame. Once we're confident it's heated up, turn it to the proper temperature. Once we have our temperature set, that whole tube is going to light up and ignite, and then it will start going ahead and warming our oven up to the desired temperature. We'll notice here on the right side we have a knob. That knob has two switch positions. The up switch is going to turn on just our knobs. The down switch is going to turn on the lights on our knobs and turn on the lights in our oven. We'll also notice that when we turn our knobs on, they are going to turn red, indicating that it is on and allowing gas to come out of that system, so it's a nice little safety device there. In our unit, we have our 12-volt operated fridge. This one is a Furrion. We have a control knob right here that we can turn it off or from cold to colder when we operate our fridge. We also have our freezer up here. Well, just like our little dorm fridge outside, guess what? We're going to end up with freeze and ice in here. We'll have to defrost it and wipe all the water out of here, throw a towel in there, get all that water out. Same thing in our fridge. We want to wipe down, get any water or moisture out of there, maybe even leave our doors open to let it dry out a little bit, and this will help decrease the opportunity for mold or mildew to occur inside our refrigerator and freezer. They don't have drain tubes in here, so if you do leave water in here, it's going to leak out and it's going to damage our wood components around it. So make sure we're taking care of this process and we're doing it properly whenever we defrost and clean out of our unit. Here in our living room area, we have our Connex TV system. We do have our hub for our Wi-Fi system up on our ceiling above our kitchen. You'll notice that little round knob. That knob is if we want to upgrade our system and install a router. That router can be a Wi-Fi booster for any Wi-Fi that we have at the campground, or we can go through a Verizon or AT&T network, get a SIM card, install in there, and we can have 4G LTE Wi-Fi wherever provided. Down here we also have our Furrion soundbar. This Furrion soundbar is also a radio. It's a Bluetooth that we connect to our phone, or we can hook to this HDMI, put a gaming system in that can go straight to our TV. We do have zones 1 and 2. Zone 1 will be your interior speakers. Zone 2 will be your exterior speakers. Down below it, we have our 110 operated furnace. This is a heater, not a gas operated heater. This is just an electric heater, so if you don't like gas heat, we can kick this on and keep this area nice and warm. It does have a timer on it. We have different ambiance modes on our screen right here. We can change the lighting, change the dimness of it, and then of course we can control our temperatures.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.